Welcome back to the show. Well, the title itself, quite frankly, just gives you this sense of concern. And I'm talking about the latest production at the Great Canadian Theatre Company. It's running until October the 2nd, and it is called the Chemical Village Project. And I'm joined by Kevin Matthew Wong here on the show today. Welcome. Great to have you here, Kevin.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I think it does sort of give you that sense, like even before I read, the story behind it, I just had a vision and an image in my head of what this story could be about. But that's why we have you here. Tell us the inspiration behind this story.
Sure, yeah. So the Chemical Valley Project is, I think it's a fascinating story because for me, it represents one microcosm of Canada, really.
Okay.
And so the Chemical Valley is this community in Sarnia, and it's one community that's surrounded by 40% of Canada's petrochemical industry. So if you can imagine, all this oil comes from Alberta, it comes to Ontario,
right?
It gets refined into all these different types of chemicals, and one community of 900 Indigenous residents is surrounded by all of these factories.
Really? Because I think people know, when you say Chemical Valley, I know everybody's ears sort of perk up at home because they've heard of it, right? They've heard of the term, but they may not understand how serious and concerning this area really is.
Exactly right. I think it's one thing to read the statistics and to read news articles about it, but what this theater piece is trying to do is actually get you a little bit deeper into the story.
Okay.
And through the piece, you actually get to meet two incredible water protectors and activists from the community, Vanessa and BZ Gray. And together, along with my co-creator, Julia, we've been working for the past 4 years to put together the show that you see at GCTC.
Well, tell me about these two people, for people that aren't familiar.
Of course, yeah. Vanessa and BZ are two incredible water protectors. So they're young people from Aamjiwnaang First Nation. They've really become the faces of activism for this community. And they're incredibly powerful people. And it's actually a very rare opportunity to get this much time with Vanessa and BZ. So what the show also gives you is a full 70-minute experience in which you're kind of getting behind-the-scenes conversations with them. And not just the sort of news face of these two prominent activists, but actually some of their most formative memories as kids, for example, is in this show. Or, how they joke and, what their actual personalities are like, not just on TV.
Right. Yeah, and it is kind of interactive in the sense that it's a mixed media, and there's a lot of projection, as I understand it.
Yes.
Tell me how you've incorporated that.
Yeah, so we always want to make sure our audience is on the edge of their seats.
Right.
And the way that we do that with this production is it's actually just me on stage. It's a solo show in which I bring Vanessa and BZ into this show through documentary video, audio, media. There's also some quite magical video projection that you'll see in the show. And we try to surprise you with the way that we use props in an unexpected way, that we use video in an unexpected way. And there's some fun audience interaction too that I promise isn't too intimidating for folks that don't like audience interaction.
So those surprises, can you sort of just give me an idea? I know we don't want to give away, too much, of course, because we want to encourage people to go, but what are some of those surprises?
Well, some of the things that might surprise you are how bad my dad jokes are in the show. So there is a lot of humor, and we think that with a topic that can be so heavy, you said the title already gets you quite concerned, which is true. We want to make sure that the experience also has a lot of levity, surprise, and fun. And for me as a theater creator focused on climate change, that's really critical to the way that I create art, is to make sure that you're surprised and delighted by your experience with me at the theater.
It's refreshing to hear, because I think oftentimes when we tackle a subject like this, we sort of it's almost like going to a funeral where we feel like we have to be, but we have to be solemn when we talk about it, right? We can't make, have any fun with it. We can't use a sense of humor. When you talk about, the Greys and their sense of humor, were you surprised, about that when you met them?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that we wanted to share, too, in the piece, is that there's actually a lot of joy, there's a lot of humor that keeps these two incredible activists going. And actually, it's that joy and humor that has held our relationship, which started as kind of collaborators on this project and really became deep friends.
Really?
And so that idea of levity, of humor, of kinship has really been a real important part of putting together the show.
Well, we just had Cody on as well, and he was talking about the fact, we put so much concentration on days, truth and reconciliation, it's a day.
Yeah.
and he's looking for Canadians. And you know, we've seen some promise. Was that an important part of this as well, to say, you know what, there are other allies outside of Indigenous communities across the country?
Absolutely, yeah. And that idea that it's not just one day. So the Chemical Valley seems to be in the news every 4-ish years. It's like a clockwork. And every 4 years, the government says, oh, we're going to do something and we're going to do a study. And then nothing happens. There's a study and there's nothing that happens.
Right.
And so what we wanted to do with this project was to commit to keep telling this story so that we don't forget this is an active situation in our province. And so I think for Canadians, this is a gentle way that folks can actually bring their friends and family to the theatre and begin a conversation about, in your own life, what are the skills that you can bring to this moment? You know, what are you being asked as an individual to bring to this challenge of reconciliation?
For some of those people who aren't aware of what those studies revealed, what have those studies revealed?
They're pretty surprising. So, for example, some of the stats that I share in the show, 40% of adults in Aamjiwnaang carry around a puffer every single day. Wow. The cancer incidence rate is extremely high. There's an extremely high stillbirth and miscarriage rate on the res. So it's pretty extreme. And if you think about it, it's actually 57 factories surrounding one community of 900 people. That's one factory for every 16 people. So it's a pretty extreme scenario.
I mean, the theater we're talking about, too, is a very intimate theater. That's what I love about theaters here in Ottawa. It's a very intimate experience. Do you see sort of looks on people's faces? Can you see sort of that shock value for people?
What I love about it is, yes, there's gasps. There's lots of laughter for sure. There's lots of quiet and what's very exciting is how responsive the Ottawa audience has been, and we'd love to see folks there to share those moments with
Well,
them.
I'll share the rest of that. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. As I said, happening at the Great Canadian Theatre Company, which is in a great area too. You know, have dinner beforehand or a drink after. GCTC.ca to get your tickets. It's running until October 2nd. We'll be right back after this.